Hello, ladies and germs, boys and squirrels, friends, family, freaks, and foes. My name is Jack. I'm the Hoosier Hippie, formerly the Cyberspace Cowboy, and I'm here to provide you with information, advice, recommendations, and opinions that will assist you in your decision about whether or not you should consider the Philippines to be your ultimate retirement destination. Now, if you would, in YouTube, please click on those like and subscribe buttons as well as the notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. On all other platforms, I'm just going to appear there, I guess. And today's topic is the expat wine shops. They're the expat groups that are filled with people that do nothing but whine and complain. Now, in previous videos, I have already discussed how to find and recognize a good Filipina, so I won't get into that there, but there's a flip side to that coin that we need to talk about. As you do your research for coming out here, you'll discover that Facebook is a primary source of communication in the Philippines, both with expats and with other Filipinos. And there you'll run across a number of expat groups, or as I refer to them, wine shops, W-H-I-N-E, where expats go to complain about how the Philippines isn't like their country. These are folks that have simply failed to do adequate research and preparation for the culture shock we all go through. They do also offer valuable information from time to time, despite the constant complaining. I would recommend that you join the ones that are specific to the place you are planning on visiting or living. Now, when you do go on these sites and you find the complainers or those that spew out the tired old tropes about how Filipinos are only after you for your money, I would check their profiles. You'll find most of them either locked, you'll discover that they've never left their hometown area, or they were merely tourists out here once and they only met the easy girls at the bars or the freelancers that take you to bed on the first date. Most people that move out here are proud of the fact that they live here. They're proud of the fact that they are with a good Filipina, and they will post that on their About page. So that's how you know and differentiate between the tourists, the people that just heard, and the people that actually live out here. There are always going to be exceptions, but for the most part, you can pretty much count on that. Now, tourists are the ones most likely to complain. They do little to no research, and they come here basically because they've heard it's an inexpensive vacation spot. But they expect all the amenities from their home country, and then they're surprised when it costs almost the same. Then there are the sexpats that come out here to have sex with as many women as possible, and they basically tell a Filipina anything she wants to hear, especially the naive Filipinas from the provinces. They'll tell them anything they want to hear in order to get into their pants. They have a good time with the girl, and then they simply leave, either going to another island or to another country, or they go back home, leaving the Filipino emotionally hurt, bitter, and filled with a desire for revenge. Now, these sexpat jerks are the ones that create the scammers for the most part, and those scammers are simply turning the tables on these expats. They're going, well, they scammed me, I'm going to scam the next expat, get my revenge. And they find out how easy it is to do that, so they continually do it. So if you want to blame somebody for this new attitude that a lot of young Filipinos have about taking expats for everything they can, blame the sexpats. Blame the people that come here simply because they heard Filipinos were easy. Good ones aren't. Also on these groups are those that, again, didn't do their research, and they just can't seem to adjust with how life is lived here. One of the most common complaints is about people going into a store and finding things are out of stock. They complain that this never happens in their home country. Of course it doesn't. Most of the West is set up for ease of logistics. They have highways and expressways and railway services and airline services that will take the products to major distribution centers that are set up all across the country. And these then spoke out into smaller distribution centers, and they feed the stores in their locality. So you can't compare that with the Philippines. The Philippines does not have that kind of distribution. They don't have those kinds of logistics. They are a series of islands that, if you would superimpose them on a map of the United States, the northernmost point would run from about Minneapolis, Minnesota, to the southernmost point being in Jacksonville, Florida, and a lot of water in between each of those islands. There are over 7,600 islands in this country. So, no, logistics are not going to be easy. And while many food items here are produced locally as they are in the United States, but most meats in the United States and some other Western countries, not so much Europe anymore because they banned a lot of the practices there, but in the United States, everything is advertised as having no additional antibiotics or growth hormones. They don't have to. First, it's illegal. Second, the food is genetically modified for these hormones and are now part of the feed makeup, and that builds up larger muscle mass on chickens and pigs and cows. But for the most part, the meat is less tasty. So, and they're also slaughtered at a much younger age than they are in countries like the Philippines. But I'm getting off the point here. What expats really need to realize most is that almost everything is imported here, with the exception of pork, chicken, rice, some fruits, and some vegetables. But you look at the chickens here. The meat on the chickens is much smaller compared to the U.S. The pork is less fatty than it is in the U.S. The rice is a little bit different than other rices that you find in the stores, but you can see them actually drying the rice out on the streets if you take a trip out into the countryside. And then there are fruits like mangoes, pineapple, sugar cane, and other vegetables that are grown here, but they're grown for Filipino tastes. If you have Western tastes and you want tomatoes, you want apples, you want pears, you want peaches, you want other things that aren't always in season elsewhere, you're going to have to either go to the United States and have them imported. You're going to have to go to Australia and New Zealand and have them imported. You're going to go to China and have them imported. You're going to go to India and have them imported. So no matter what you're choosing, if it's something that is a Western type of food, it's going to be imported. And imported automatically translates into more expensive. In some cases, it will cost you more than in the States. If you can't find a certain product or a certain tool, and you go into a store and they say, sorry, Kuya, out of stock, try Lazada. Yes, you may have to pay for shipping, and it may take a week or so to get it, but it's easier than going from store to store in your community or traveling 3 hours by ferry to get to a major city to do your shopping. But why does one area seem to have everything, like Manila, in some cases Cebu, whereas others often don't, like Davao, CDO, Dumaguete, etc.? Well, it's simply this: supply and demand, the cost of shipping, and logistics. If you are one of those expats that prefers to live away from the maddening crowd, meaning that you live out in the remote provinces or in the smaller cities, then the demand for many of the or most of the products that you will consume and that you can afford is going to be very limited. They're not going to stock things simply for your pleasure. They're going to stock what sells. They can't afford to have something hanging on the shelf for 1, 2, or 3 years in the event that you might need it at some point. That's what Lazada and Shopee is for, and in some cases, more recently, Amazon. Amazon is starting to build a presence here. They are all designed to help rectify the out of stock or the needs that people have in remote areas for certain products, as well as they use this to discover previously unknown pockets of need. What ends up happening is if the stores on Lazada or Shopee or even Amazon themselves find out that, hey, this one area keeps buying this one product because there are a lot of expats that have moved there, they may begin stocking that stuff in stores there. So it's all supply and demand, folks. Again, everything here is imported, especially foods, Western foods and appliances that we take for granted. Can you bring out your own home articles from the West? Sure, but you'll probably pay a prohibitive tariff on those goods once they arrive. Plus, they may not be rated for the 220 volt 50 cycle electrical systems we have here. Can you purchase adapters? Sure, but you're going to need to buy the really expensive ones if you don't want your stuff to fry within 6 months, if they aren't rated for those voltage and cycles. Overall, quite honestly, it's cheaper just to sell everything off, give it to your relatives, and buy new here when the products are actually made to work on the electrical current and the electrical grid that's provided. Wine shop patrons are going to complain about anything. And they complain about traffic, the lack of infrastructure, coming from a country where the car culture is 50, 60, 70 years old. It's had a long time to develop. So the countries were able to develop roadways that adapted to that kind of culture. They don't realize that the car culture here in the Philippines is a relatively new phenomenon. 30 years ago, the primary modes of transportation here were mainly horse-drawn carts, bicycles, and small motorcycles. It was primarily to the really well-to-do that owned automobiles and the small middle-class merchants that had motorbikes. It's only been in the past 20 years or so that the middle class has really begun to expand and have more than just money to live on. They now have disposable income. And a lot of that expansion has been in the past 10 years with rising wages. This has resulted in more automobiles being sold. So no, they don't have a freeway system here or other rapid transit system for that matter. Everything goes through side streets and everything goes through the city. And at rush hour, there are traffic jams. That's a part of it. They have not been able to adapt quickly to the rapidly changing financials of the middle class here. There are also laws that they have in place protecting those that are poorer but have their own little plots of land. Eminent domain isn't a thing here. They can't just come in and buy up a whole bunch of property on eminent domain, give them a pittance for the property, kick them out, tell them go somewhere else, and then build a highway or a railway going through that area. It does not work that way here. You are in a different country. Your laws, your way of life, your thinking doesn't apply here. So If there is anything you are going to change about yourself, it's that. Throw away all the thinking that you have about the West. It doesn't apply. Their laws apply. Their way of doing things apply. And it is simple arrogance for a Westerner to come in and say, you need to do it this way. No, they don't. This is their country. You're a guest here. Why don't they build freeways, freeways that are raised up off the roadway? That way it gives ways for people to transit across. Or why don't they build subways and tunnel through the mountains, etc.? Well, tectonic and volcanic threats prohibit subways or tunneling through mountains. Why? Because there are lots of earthquakes here due to the volcanic activity. The Philippines is right on the western edge of the Ring of Fire in the Pacific. The Philippines were formed by two tectonic plates crashing into one another. That's why you see mountains that look like that. Jagged, sharp, steep peaks. That's where where the seabed was actually pushed upwards. So with that constantly happening, the tunnel system would always be in danger of collapsing. Could they engineer around it? Maybe, but it'd be prohibitively expensive. The same with building highways around the north part of where I live here in Cebu. That would be prohibitively expensive because it would involve a series of bridges going over valleys. Secondly, the mountains are where all the wealthy people live. It's cooler up there by about 10 degrees Fahrenheit. It's cooler. So they tend to move up there to get away from the heat. And during the rainy season, all they have to worry about is a little bit of the runoff and maybe an occasional landslide living up that way. Down near the coast, they have to worry about flooding. So to build a highway along the coast, right by the ports, that might be a better thing if you could do it on an elevated basis, or even a rapid transit train system that would have branches that would go off to certain points in town, like the Capital District, the Business Park, and the IT Park, where a majority of Cebuanos work and do their business. That might make some sense, but that's something that costs money, and they would have to persuade literally tens of thousands of people, a lot of them squatters, a lot of them just poor, eking out an existence every day with their little sorry shops and their little stores. They would have to displace all of them. And where would they go? What would they do? So what they do is they have highways that go through the city, and shops spring up all along these highways. You go down the coast and sorry stores will pop up all along there, and they'll slow traffic down. I don't think I ever got above 40 miles per hour on any roadway here. And 9 times out of 10, it was 40 kilometers per hour, which is about 25 miles an hour. So it takes a while to get from point A to point B here, unless you're on a bike or you're a speed demon, and generally you end up in an accident. But I can't stress this enough. The main problem I see from reading through these wine shop posts is a lack of comprehensive research. A few hours each day for a year before you come out here will reduce the culture shock to a manageable level upon arrival. Watch videos. There are literally tens of thousands of videos on the Philippines, ranging from all the places to visit, why you should live here, why you should retire here, to why I left. There are at least 500 videos I've seen on why I left the Philippines. 9 times out of 10 again, it came down to person didn't do any research. And they decided to wing it when they came out here. And that caused them to have either abrasive periods of adjustment, or they just didn't like the way the culture was, and they couldn't get over their culture shock. So if you do that research, you'll either find that it will reduce your culture shock to a manageable level, or it will dissuade you from coming here entirely. Don't wing it. In the future, I'm going to do more of these wine shop vlogs, taking ideas from both the foolish and the wise and putting my responses to them out there for you all. But until then, thank you for watching my videos. Once again, my name is Jack. I'm the Hoosier Hippie, and I hope this has helped you to come and check out the Philippines for yourself, or at least develop some interest in the Philippines. So, hey everyone, be safe and be sure to live your life to the fullest. See ya. Bye-bye.